Recently, in the game I've been building, I added the ability for a character to transition between two different maps. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, and if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to show you the exact code that I used. Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to another video in the series where I try to start my own tech company and share the lessons that I'm learning along the way. Recently, I've been building a productivity app / video game, and this video is going to focus more on the video game development aspect of things. The first part is going to cover how to switch between two different levels from a high-level game development point of view, and then I'm going to go into exactly how I'm doing it using Phaser.js and Typescript and show the specific code that I'm using to make it work. Okay, if you're unfamiliar with game development, this might seem a bit confusing to you, but your highest level of logic here is going to be your game engine. And inside of that game engine will be several scene objects. You're probably going to have a different scene object for like your main menu and your core gameplay and maybe your end credits and cutscenes. And at first, I thought I was going to be creating a new scene object for every map in my game. But I quickly realized that if I did that, I would have an extreme amount of duplicated code between each of those scene objects because they were all variations of my core gameplay scene that housed the main logic relating to like player movement, collision detection, and like your health and attacking, stuff like that. And because all of that, which was most of my code on the scene object, would be the same, all I really needed to do was to restart the current scene object and change out the map object on that scene, and then just update the character position. Once I realized that that's what I needed to do, there's a couple things that need to happen in order to facilitate that. One, we need to be able to detect when a character is entering certain areas where we would want to initiate that transition between two different maps. We'll need to restart the game scene and then update the map and the position data on that game scene. Alright, so here we are in Tiled, which, as I've covered in previous videos, is the program that I'm using to build maps for my game. And inside of this map, we have a layer called Transportation. And on that Transportation layer, I've created a game object over here, which is on top of the open door for this house. So on the left-hand side, you'll see when I click on that game object, there are a couple properties that come up on the left-hand side, notably the X and Y position. So that's how we're gonna know where this game object is in our game engine. All right, here we are in the development mode of my game, and we can see that there's a pink box overlapping the open door of that house. This is that game object that I showed you in Tiled. And when my hero sprite overlaps with that pink box, we initiate the scene restarting and update the X and Y position of our hero sprite so that he spawns at the correct position on the new level. As I promised at the beginning of this video, here is the actual code that I'm using to make this work. It starts on line 597, where we're creating a transportation layer variable and setting it equal to the map, and then getting the object layer called transportation from that map, and getting the objects on that transportation layer on the map. So the transportation layer variable is equal to a collection of those game objects. Then we loop over all of those game objects, and we're saying for each thing on those collection of objects, each one of those things is a teleportation tile. Then we're going to destructure certain things from each of those teleportation tiles on lines 599. And essentially, at first, we're just grabbing the information on each of those teleportation tiles, and then we're going to create a custom collision between each of those game objects and our hero sprite. That's happening down here on line 622. We create that custom collider. That's the pink square that I showed you inside of the development mode of the game. And then we create the actual collider, the overlap detection between each of those custom colliders and our hero sprite. So for each custom collider, each teleportation tile, we create a custom collider, and then we create an overlap on our game engine. Here on line 631, this references the scene that we're on. So on this scene, we access the physics, and then we add an overlap between our hero sprite and each custom collider. That also takes in a callback function on line 634, which is the code that is going to execute when there is an overlap between these two items, between the hero sprite and that custom collider. And then inside of that callback function, there's two main things happening. One, we gather the context necessary, we create the information necessary to be able to restart the scene, and then we restart the scene and pass in all of the necessary information so that way we don't lose it when we restart the scene. And restarting the scene happens here on line 658, and we just pass in the information that we're gathering. Hopefully that makes sense. I tried to strike a good balance in this video between the high-level overview of how game development works and the actual technical implementation that I have here in TypeScript. But if you have questions on either of those two things, just leave a comment on this video and I'll do my best to respond as quickly as I can. And if you found this video helpful or insightful in any way, please leave me a like or consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. As always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.